the background is I'm an organizational psychologist by training. So my whole career has been focused on developing people within companies, facilitating change and through organizations. And I arrived at this work just to explain like how this shows up for me because something was clearly missing when it came to facilitating change, both intrapersonally and interpersonally and systemically within organizations. So the work that I do now is very much about bridging that gap and working with leaders within startups and within larger companies to understand the role that that individual and team development has in facilitating broader change, in reaching new markets, in whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, and then helping to enable that, helping to activate that. And the not so secret part about that is it involves the leaders themselves learning some of these skills to be able to model this and show up in a different way, in a more adaptive way for their entire teams. I speak a lot about prehab and rehab, and there's always been a focus on the prehab, on basically building our capacity over time and making sure that we're effectively nourishing our nervous systems. What I didn't I didn't pay as much attention to was the rehabilitation and really the recognition that everyone is coming in. And when I say everyone, not an exaggeration or a generalization, everyone in my experience is coming in with a nervous system that is in need of rehabilitation. It's just the nature of living in the world we live in. And that attention to what does that actually mean to go from, let's say, -1 to 0 instead of 0 to 1, or before or in concert with 0 to 1, that's something that NSI has really helped me with. Generally, one of the things that has been incredibly beneficial has been just the premise of assess, reassess, and working that into the work. In that, those of us who do, let's say, deeper, more inner work, what we might call developmental coaching compared to quote unquote performance coaching, or more um, outcomes-based coaching for a specific business need. That developmental coaching can be really hard to measure, really hard to see, even for somebody moving through it who's having a great experience, feels the difference in their life. It can be hard to kind of describe what that difference is exactly. And what I found with the implementing the neuro drills in such a way where we're assessing, then we're engaging in the neuro drills, and we're reassessing both within session and across sessions is a great way to visually see and more in a more gross fashion, physically feel the way the shift is taking hold within the nervous system. A great example of how it can be so simple and powerful at the same time is a client who I was working with who really struggled with something a lot of us, I think, struggle with, which is hitting a wall midday, say after lunch. And it's an interesting one. I've actually moved through this myself and tried all the things of like, what is it? What is the stimulant that I need, or whatever, or the breath work that I need, or whatever. But the shift that we made was instead utilizing a visual reset after lunch and pairing that with something she was already doing, which was amazing, which was taking a short walk after lunch. So what she began doing is she would have lunch, go for her walk, come back into the office or to home, wherever she was working from. She would do grab her cooling gel eye mask, go throw her legs up the wall, put on the eye mask. She'd rest her hands on her belly for some extra sensory feedback on her belly that she really liked. And just allowed a little bit of space for the just being in the dark, having the reduction in stimulus. And that was one of those things that right off the bat was so helpful. And she could, modulate how much time she was spending doing that. But it was shocking to her, and it's been just as it's been shocking to me in my own journey, how much a break when you're a high performing person and you're in meetings and you're in conversations and you're making decisions, just closing it down for a moment, coming back, and how much that was able to give her in terms of access to her basically executive function the rest of the day and her ability to continue doing what it was she wanted to do. And I'll say the interesting side benefit that she wasn't expecting was that then after the workday was over, she had more attention and energy left over to bring to her life because she wasn't investing so much energy in trying to force herself through the latter part of the day, which was kind of like a double whammy. Here, what I will often come back to is just remembering that the way we've learned to function, the standard that's been set, the expectations that have been set, are just not human. It's just the way, and this is coming from the world of work, the way that we learn that we should be showing up is highly mechanistic in nature. It's just not logical for anybody who understands how humans function, that we should be able to sustain the type of function that we're expected to sustain. And that single point has been just incredibly freeing for so many people that I interact with. And what I found that's interesting is being more than what we bring or beyond what we bring to those that we're working with. By modeling an understanding of that and living in a way that acknowledges that if I want to have sustained performance in a healthy way, in a human way, that allows me to continue connecting with myself, others, the environment, the impact that I care about, as opposed to being in what I call the crush crash cycle. Doing really great, crash. Do really great for a bit, crash. I just have to acknowledge I'm a human being. I'm an animal. And that requires certain things. And to me, that's something that NSI does so beautifully is connect. All right, well, what does that mean? What is the other way that I can show up? And modeling that is something that a lot of, whether I'm facilitating workshops or I'm giving a talk at a conference, it's been surprising how much of an impact that can make in just the very natural human thing of, by me stepping forward that way, it's giving permission to others to say, oh, maybe I can do that. Maybe that's possible for me.